At a classmate's wedding, I caught the bouquet the bride tossed. Amid the crowd's cheers and teasing, the childhood friend I had loved in secret for years rejected me. The applause faded into awkward murmurs. So it turned out that my decade-long crush was nothing more than a joke everyone knew about. On impulse, I thrust the bouquet into the hands of a groomsman standing beside me, someone I had never met before. To my surprise, he glanced at me, smiled, and said, "I do." The fact that I had a crush on Gerald. The whole world knew. Everyone except him. It was a full 20 hours after my birthday before he finally appeared in front of me. And even then, it was at a classmate's wedding. The bride's bouquet landed squarely in my arms. "It's Lily. You're the next bride." Someone suddenly took the lead and shouted, "Achie." Lily caught the bouquet. "Aren't you going to say something?" "Yeah. You two grew up together. And Achie just won the championship in France, double the good news." The teasing grew louder and louder. My cheeks burned. I imagined him confessing to me. Imagine that all those years of silent longing might finally come true today. "Enough with the nonsense," he said, smiling as his gaze settled on me. "I've always seen her as my little sister. Don't scare her." The crowd continued to egg him on. "She's such a cute childhood sweetheart, if you don't make a move, someone else will." Gerald curled his lips and replied casually, "Good. I could use some peace and quiet." The cheers turned into murmurs. I lowered my head, staring at the bouquet in my arms, and suddenly found it all rather ironic. From childhood to now, I'd heard that same answer, "little sister," countless times from Gerald. And yet, I never learned. Apparently, when you've been in love for too long, even deceiving yourself becomes a habit. Forcing a carefree smile, I shoved the bouquet into the groomsman's hands. He glanced at me again and said with a smile, "I do." My mind went completely blank. I hadn't anticipated things turning out this way at all. In the chaos, I instinctively looked toward Gerald. I hoped, desperately, to see something different in his eyes. Even the slightest hint of displeasure. But there was nothing. He remained perfectly at ease, joking with our classmates. "Achie, your little sister's really about to be stolen away." Gerald replied lightly, "It's just kids fooling around. Why take it seriously?" Then he called out to the groomsmen on stage, "Sorry, she's just joking." "How could it be a joke? She gave you the bouquet," someone protested. "You all know Lily's been prideful since she was little." He paused, glanced at my face, then at the groomsmen again. "Someone hands you a bouquet, and you don't even know how to turn it down." That drew a round of knowing laughter. My heart sank, little by little. I pushed through the crowd and hid myself in a quiet corner of the terrace. Not long after, Gerald came over. "Don't mind their teasing." He pulled a small box from the inside pocket of his suit and pressed it into my hand. "Here. Happy birthday." I didn't take it. He'd come back from his race 2 days ago. And still missed my birthday. "You don't like it? Why should I like a gift just because it's from you?" I replied flatly. He smiled and reached out to ruffle my hair. "Then tell me, whose gift do you like?" His palm was warm. But I turned my head away, dodging his touch. "Don't be like that." He withdrew his hand, his tone carrying its usual indulgence. "I'm flying out to the next race tomorrow. When I get back, I'll make it up to you with something better." I took another step back. "No need. That'd be too much trouble." He leaned closer, as if searching my face for a trace of pretense or sulking. "When you used to make me stay up late helping you with homework, why didn't you think that was trouble?" When I stayed silent, he pinched my cheek gently. "Be good. I'll take you home." And, he turned his face aside, his Adam's apple bobbing. "Don't give bouquets to just anyone next time." His tone was gentle, almost coaxing, like one you'd use on a child. But that tenderness had never had anything to do with love. In the car, Gerald noticed I hadn't said a word. Still upset about what happened at the wedding. I turned my head, my gaze drifting unconsciously to his profile. Blonde hair. Pale skin. Deep-set eyes. A sharp nose. So handsome it made my heart ache. This face had filled my entire youth. And yet it never belonged to me. Just as I was about to blurt out a confession, Gerald suddenly slowed the car and rolled down the window. "Been waiting long?" "Just got here." A girl in a beige trench coat got into the car. I froze in the passenger seat, all the words I'd prepared lodging painfully in my throat. "This is Lauren, our team's translator." "Lily, my little sister." Lauren. Such a familiar name. I remembered helping Gerald write love letters to her. "So you're Lily," she said with a smile. "Achie mentions you a lot, says you're his little tagalong he can't shake off." She seemed amused and added, "Must be hard being a brother, taking care of such a clingy little sister." "I'm used to it," Gerald chuckled. "She just has a bit of a temper sometimes. But every time she throws a tantrum, she comes running back to me on her own." "Right, Lily," he said confidently. Lauren laughed. "Sounds like someone you really can't get rid of." They chatted back and forth, perfectly matched. And suddenly, I felt like an outsider. I couldn't listen anymore. "Drop me off at the subway station ahead," I said. Gerald glanced at me in surprise. "That's not your stop yet." "I just remembered something I need to do." I avoided his gaze and looked out the window. "I won't keep you." The early autumn night breeze carried a chill. Yet my eyes burned uncontrollably. Having a crush on Gerald felt like running a marathon with no finish line in sight. I was tired. Truly exhausted. I still remembered the year I first met Gerald. I was 8. He was 9. His family had just moved in next door. The first time we met, he knocked on my door with his pockets stuffed full of fruit candies. "For you." He pressed the biggest one into my palm, his eyes curving into crescent moons as he smiled. When he saw older kids picking on me, he would rush over and stand in front of me. "I've got your back from now on." At first, I only saw him as the boy next door. Until my second year of middle school. He made the game-winning shot on the basketball court, then turned and smiled at me in the stands. In that instant, my heartbeat slipped out of control. I think, that was when I fell for him. But I never dared to confess. I was afraid that once I did, we wouldn't even be able to remain friends. So I began deliberately waiting for him before and after school. Pretending to run into him outside the convenience store he frequented. I would secretly feel happy just because of a difficult math problem. Those complicated formulas and symbols became my best excuse to stay close to Gerald. I gave him a copy of Pride and Prejudice, slipping in a bookmark as a quiet hint, "You are my sunshine." Yet all my careful efforts were nothing more than coincidences in his eyes. He often ruffled my hair and said, "Lily, you're really just like my little sister." Those words were like a tiny thorn, piercing my heart year after year. Later, we were accepted into the same high school. He curved his lips and said, "Looks like we really are fated." Only I knew how that summer I locked myself in my room. How many workbooks I finished, how many nights I stayed up. All because I'd once overheard him say he wanted to get into First High. In high school, Gerald only grew more striking. A single smile from him could make girls in the hallway swoon. I watched his personality become freer, more effortless. While I slowly turned inward, quieter with each passing year. When we went to college, Gerald moved away. Every time he came back, I would start thinking days in advance about what I should wear to see him. Yet the first favor he ever asked of me was to help him write a love letter, to Lauren. "Lily, you're good with words. Help me write her a letter, will you?" I wrote 3 full pages. Every line was something I'd never dared to say aloud. He said they had clicked instantly. She was bold. Radiant. They both loved racing. She was nothing like me. I couldn't even remember how many times Gerald had made exceptions for Lauren. Because she wanted to celebrate their 100-day anniversary, he cancelled the musical tickets I'd waited half a year to get. He even spent all the money he'd saved from part-time jobs on the perfume and dresses she liked. Yet he'd once told me that students shouldn't be extravagant. The most painful moment was a rainy day during my junior year. I took a 4-hour high-speed train to his university, wanting to surprise him on his birthday. "Lily? Why are you here?" He froze for a moment, then glanced at his watch. "Lauren wants dessert from that place in the south of the city. I have to go meet her now." He didn't notice the cake in my hand slowly melting. Nor did he see my rain-soaked hair. He simply shoved his umbrella into my hands and hurried off to hail a taxi. Leaning out the window, he said, "I'll come find you after I take her out to eat." The rain only grew heavier. Standing there, I couldn't even tell whether my face was wet with rain, or tears. The day Gerald went to Monaco for a race, he posted a photo on Instagram. The sunlight was perfect. He wore sunglasses, smiling with youthful confidence. Sharp-eyed netizens quickly zoomed in on the reflection in his lenses and spotted the figure holding the camera. I recognized that pale yellow dress instantly. It was the exact one Lauren had worn when she got into his car that day. In less than 2 hours, the internet was buzzing. Someone even posted photos of the two of them traveling together. Gerald didn't bother hiding it. He simply followed up with a photo of himself holding Lauren's hand. He'd chased her for so long. And finally, they were together. Of course, handsome men belong with beautiful women. People like me never stood a chance. Isn't that Lauren from the translation department? The super pretty one? Case closed. It's her. I still have photos of her hosting the school anniversary with Gerald. So they went to Monaco together? A work-funded romance? Look how happy Senior Gerald is smiling. My eyes stung fiercely. I hurriedly shut off my phone. Every word in those comments reminded me how ridiculous I was. This unrequited crush, after all, had only ever been a one-woman play. Well, Gerald really is an outstanding kid. I didn't know when my mom had come up behind me. She sighed softly and patted my shoulder. "If you really can't let go, our families have known each other for years, and you know Gerald so well, I could talk to his mom, test the waters. Maybe it'll work." So even my mother had noticed my feelings for Gerald. After a moment, I smiled and said, "Mom, the whole childhood sweethearts thing isn't popular anymore." "Then at least look at other men," she replied. "Keeping your eyes only on Gerald, what's that about?" Another long stretch of silence followed. "You remember what you promised me," she said at last. "Once you found a new job, you'd start going on blind dates." All these years of chasing Gerald, I had been working toward getting a teaching position. Just last month, I'd finally passed the exam. I'd wanted to share the good news with Gerald on my birthday. But in the end, nothing came of it. "All right. You decide the time and place." My mom froze, clearly not expecting me to agree so easily. Her eyes reddened as she nodded again and again. "Looks like that boy Gerald just doesn't have the luck. I'll go reply to them right now." I laughed through my tears. On my phone screen was my chat with Gerald. The last message was still from a week ago. I'd asked about the weather in Monaco. 2 days later, he'd replied, "It's fine." In the past, whenever he traveled for races, my phone would buzz non-stop. Photos of the track. Complaints about awful airplane food. Even trivial scratches on his helmet. I could practically piece together his daily schedule. But now, those rambling moments clearly belonged to someone else. I removed our chat from the top of my message list. That was it. I told myself quietly. The next morning, I went to my usual hair salon and cut off my waist-length hair. In my memories, Gerald always liked to ruffle my long hair and say, "Lily looks best with long hair." Just for that one sentence, I never cut it short. At a cafe downtown, I met the blind date my mother had arranged for me. I hesitated outside the entrance for quite a while before going in. Because no matter how hard I tried to imagine it, I never expected the man I was meeting to be the very groomsman who had caught my bouquet that day. "Lily?" He stood up and pulled out a chair for me. "I'm Henry." Compared to my shock, he seemed far calmer. "There's something even more coincidental," he said with a smile, dimples appearing at the corners of his mouth. "We actually teach at the same school. I teach PE. I've seen you a few times in the cafeteria, but you always walked past in a hurry. You probably never noticed me, did you?" Holding my coffee, I found myself at a loss for words. All these years, my eyes had followed only Gerald. How could I have noticed anyone else? My phone rang. Gerald's name flashed on the screen, along with a video call request. Instinctively, I declined it. A message followed immediately. "Pick up. The sunrise here is beautiful, I want you to see it." Before I could reply, another message came through. "Just 1 minute." He sent another video request. This time, I answered. The screen was flooded with brilliant light. Gerald's face, bathed in golden hues, looked unusually gentle. "Well? Haven't you always wanted to see?" He suddenly stopped, his eyes widening slightly. "What happened to your hair?" I was about to answer when a soft, feminine voice came through the call. "Qley, help me fasten my necklace. I want to take a photo." His gaze clearly shifted away, the image shook slightly. "Coming," he replied, then turned back to the camera. "Lily, I'll call you later." The call ended. Staring at the darkened screen, I suddenly felt the freshly cut ends of my hair prick sharply against my neck. "Are you okay?" The voice across from me pulled me back to reality. I looked up, trying to force a smile, only to realize my lips felt too heavy to lift. After saying goodbye to Henry, I received a message from my high school class monitor. "Lily, the reunion's already started. Where are you?" Rather than drowning alone in feelings I couldn't untangle, I decided to throw myself into the noise of a crowd. I had just sat down in the private room when my phone lit up with an Instagram notification from Gerald. It was a photo of the Monaco beach in the morning light, captioned, "First time seeing such a beautiful sunrise." I opened the comments and saw a message saying "I love you." As if possessed, I tapped into Lauren's profile. Her latest post had been uploaded half an hour ago. The first photo was a candid shot she'd taken of Gerald while he slept. The second showed 2 hands intertwined, matching couple bracelets around their wrists. The third was a beach photo he'd taken of her. What hurt the most were Gerald's comments under each photo. "You took that without telling me. This bracelet suits you. Beautiful." Back in senior year of high school, Gerald and I had gone camping by the sea together. Because we slept in, we missed the sunrise. He had promised that one day, he'd take me to see it again. I'd tucked that promise carefully into the softest corner of my heart. Yet now, he had given that romance to someone else. "Lily, what are you spacing out for?" A classmate handed me a freshly filled glass. I took it and drained it in one go. The class monitor glanced at my phone and said, "Counting this year, you've liked Gerald for 13 years, haven't you? Still can't let go?" We had been desk mates in high school. All these years, she'd watched my silent love for Gerald unfold. "Lily, there's something I have to tell you, something I've kept to myself for years. Do you remember the night of our graduation banquet in senior year?" Her voice pulled me back to that night, heavy with farewells and the bitter scent of beer. We were all drunk. You went to the restroom and didn't come back for a long time. I overheard Gerald talking to the sports rep. The sports rep had his arm around Gerald's shoulder and joked, "Achie, the way Lily looks at you isn't right. She's followed you for so many years, she obviously likes you. Aren't you going to say something?" I clearly heard Gerald laugh. He said, "I noticed her feelings a long time ago. But she's too good, too serious. Keeping things like this, not too close, not too far, is just right." So it wasn't that he hadn't noticed. He simply chose not to respond. Tears soaked the corners of my eyes. My phone rang. Gerald's name appeared on the screen. I declined it. He called again. I declined again. By the fifth time, my classmates started cheering and snatched my phone, putting it on speaker. His voice was edged with impatience. "Why aren't you answering?" "Lily, I bought you something in Monaco." "Gerald, Lily's drunk," the class monitor cut in. "She went on a blind date today." The line fell silent. "What?" His voice dropped. "Henry, the groomsman who caught her bouquet at the wedding. They even work at the same place. Don't you think that sounds like fate? Who knows, maybe he's had his eye on our Lily all along." The others chimed in, teasing one after another. "Lily, say something," he urged, his tone growing anxious. I didn't respond. Tears streamed down my face. I was afraid that if I spoke, my choking sobs would give away just how miserable I was. "Are you still mad at me?" There was even a hint of panic in his voice. "Say something, okay? At least let me know you're listening." The class monitor tried to smooth things over. But I reached out and hung up the call. This time, I didn't want to respond right away. When the alcohol wore off, my head throbbed painfully. At home, there was still the hangover tea Gerald had prepared for me before. Right after I graduated, my first job was full of endless business dinners. When Gerald heard I'd drunk too much, he'd rushed over from next door to make me hangover tea. "You should quit a job like this as soon as possible," he'd said. "You're a girl, coming back flushed every time. It makes people worry." Back then, I'd thought how wonderful it would be to be Gerald's girlfriend. He was always so gentle. And from that moment on, I'd resolved to work toward a stable teaching position. After sorting out my emotions, I packed up everything Gerald had ever given me and threw it all away. Among the gifts were several postcards he'd written to me. Every word, every sentence, had once been carved deeply into my memory. "Lily, North City had its first snowfall today, white as far as the eye can see. The forbidden city in the snow feels like a dream of the imperial past. My roommates and I built a snowman downstairs. The more we built, the more it looked like you. It suddenly occurred to me that you've never seen snow. If only I could watch it with you. Good luck on finals." Judging by everything, things between him and Lauren must have been going well. There would be no more chances to watch sunrises or snowfall together. That day, I burned every photo I had of Gerald, along with the postcards he'd sent me. Even though my heart ached, I didn't shed another tear. I wouldn't allow myself to cry for him anymore. After work the next day, Gerald showed up at my place. I was a little surprised. Normally, after finishing a race, he would travel around for a while before returning, only showing up at my house after throwing a celebration dinner. A flight from Monaco to South City takes at least 40 hours. By that calculation, he must have boarded a plane the very night I got drunk. At the dinner table, my mom kept putting food on Gerald's plate as she said, "Lily passed the exam. She got her teaching post." Gerald smiled. "Good for her." A while back, she went on a blind date with a guy from the same school, my mom continued teasing. "I think he's quite nice." Gerald paused, then turned to look at me. "Our Lily is pretty charming, huh?" My mom sighed and didn't pursue the topic further. After dinner, I was washing dishes in the kitchen. Gerald came in. "Something as important as the civil service exam, and a blind date, how come you never mentioned it?" "There wasn't much worth mentioning," I replied. The smile on his face gradually faded. "Growing up, I've never seen you really like anyone. Every time the family introduced someone to you, you said you weren't satisfied." "This one might actually work out," I said calmly. "He's a PE teacher, good physique, same profession, plenty to talk about. Most importantly, he has no dating history. He suits me pretty well." "Since when is having no dating history an advantage?" He paused. "And PE majors usually aren't very bright." I smiled at him. "Henry scored over 500 on the college entrance exam." Gerald swallowed. "You remember his grades pretty clearly." Before I could respond, he continued, "There's something you did that wasn't appropriate." I blinked. "What?" Gerald stepped closer, his gaze falling on my wrist. "How could you wear the bracelet I gave you to go on a blind date with someone else?" I looked down at the rabbit bracelet on my wrist. He'd won it for me at a claw machine on my 18th birthday. He'd fastened it onto my wrist himself, then posted a photo online with the caption, 18. Happy birthday. It was an ordinary bracelet. Yet I'd worn it until now. In the past, words like that from Gerald would have made me anxious and restless for an entire night. This time, I took off the bracelet and placed it into his hand. Here. Take it back. He froze for a moment. I was just joking. He tried to put it back on my wrist, but I refused. After a long pause, he frowned and said, "Do you like him? If you haven't met someone you truly like, don't rush into a relationship. I can talk to Auntie for you." I asked instinctively, "Do you even know what kind of person I like?" His gaze drifted away. Just as I was about to snap back at him, a voice message from Henry came through. "Lily, there's a Halloween event at the amusement park tomorrow. Want to go together?" I replied instantly, "Sure." Beside me, Gerald glanced at my phone. "You removed my chat from the top." "Yeah. We don't talk much anymore anyway." A long silence followed. I couldn't be bothered to say anything, letting the quiet stretch between us. Before bed, I received 2 messages. One from Henry. One from Gerald. "Henry, I'll pick you up downstairs tomorrow morning." "Gerald, Lauren and I are going to the amusement park too. See you tomorrow." What? Wasn't Gerald the one who hated amusement parks the most? Why was he tagging along now? What a pain. The Halloween atmosphere at the amusement park was in full swing. Henry and I were lining up for the roller coaster when a familiar voice sounded behind us. "Aren't you afraid of heights?" Gerald stood not far away, Lauren's arm looped closely through his. "Whoever's afraid is a dog," I replied evenly. The one afraid of heights had always been Gerald. When we were kids, every time we went to an amusement park, I wanted to ride the roller coaster. But I could see the fear in Gerald's eyes. He wouldn't even get on the pirate ship. So, to spare him the embarrassment, I lied and said I was scared of heights too. Henry patted my shoulder, signaling that it was our turn. "It's just a roller coaster," Gerald muttered, pulling Lauren onto the ride. As the car slowly climbed to its highest point, Henry asked gently, "Are you scared?" I shook my head. During the sudden plunge, I heard Lauren ask Gerald, "Are you okay?" When we got off, Gerald clutched the railing, his face alternating between pale and green, cold sweat beading on his forehead. Lauren complained softly, "I told you you're afraid of heights. Why insist on pushing yourself?" He shook her hand off and looked straight at me, as if he wanted to say something. But in the end, he only turned away and said hoarsely, "I'll go buy some water." Before Gerald returned, Lauren pointed excitedly at a Thai restaurant nearby. "Let's eat here tonight. The reviews online are great." Henry looked at me. "Lily, what do you think?" I nodded. At the restaurant, Lauren ordered a mango sticky rice for Gerald without hesitation. My hand tightened around my glass of water. She didn't even know Gerald was allergic to mangoes. Back in elementary school, he'd once eaten mango crepes by mistake and nearly couldn't breathe. It was me who ran to the office to call a teacher. But in the end, I said nothing. He had a girlfriend now. It wasn't my place, his little sister's place, to worry. By the time Gerald returned, most of the dishes had already been served. "Who ordered this?" he asked. Lauren's smile stiffened. "I did. It's their signature dish." Gerald said nothing, his expression darker than it had been after the roller coaster. Ignoring that, Lauren turned her attention to Henry. "You and Lily seem close. Are you dating?" Henry smiled, picked up some food for me, and replied, "Not yet. I'm still pursuing her." Gerald glanced at him, something flickering in his eyes. The meal dragged on endlessly. Gerald barely touched his food. Outside the restaurant, Lauren seemed to sense his mood and asked carefully, "Achi, what's wrong? Are you still feeling unwell?" Gerald didn't answer. He looked at me instead. Following his gaze, Lauren curled her lips into a meaningful smile. "Looks like Lily finally has someone looking after her. Achi, you won't have to worry about this little sister anymore." The next second, he said, "She's not my sister." Later, Lauren wanted to ride the carousel, while I wanted to ride the Ferris wheel. So we split up. After getting off the Ferris wheel, Henry naturally took my bag from my hands. "There seems to be a Halloween-themed parade up ahead," he said. "Want to go take a look?" I smiled and nodded in agreement. The lighting in the themed area was eerie and unsettling. Staff dressed as all kinds of ghosts weaved through the crowd, letting out sudden shrieks to scare visitors. I was focused on a jack-o'-lantern when a little demon wearing a green-faced, fanged mask suddenly lunged at me, letting out a low growl. I startled and stepped back half a pace. In the next instant, Henry's arm wrapped around my shoulders, pulling me steadily into his warm, solid embrace. "Don't be scared. It's just a staff member." My cheek pressed against his firm chest, and I could clearly feel the taut strength in his arm and chest. The kind of power and security that came naturally to an athlete. His body heat, and the faint scent of cedarwood, enveloped me, chasing away the lingering fear. The little demon laughed and scampered off. Only then did Henry release me. "Are you okay?" I'm fine, I shook my head, my ears burning slightly. Thank you. Let's go. It looks livelier up ahead. He naturally took my hand and led me toward the flow of people. I didn't pull away. Much later, I would learn that Gerald had been standing not far away, frozen as he watched that scene. Jealous to the point of madness. That night, just as I lay down in bed, I received a message from Gerald. Lily, my next race is in Shanghai. After this one, the season will wind down. I'll have a long break, and I can take you out to have some fun. Wait for me. If it had been before, I probably would have been so happy I couldn't sleep all night. But now, I only replied politely, good luck. After Gerald left for Shanghai, he liked every post I made. But I never reached out to him. Days passed, one after another. At some point, I realized I was running into Henry more and more often at school. Or perhaps I'd simply never noticed before. In the cafeteria, he would casually sit across from me with his tray. By the track field, when he was leading students on their runs and saw me pass by, he would smile at me from afar. That unmistakable affection was like winter sunlight. Not scorching, but warm in a way that felt real. One afternoon during lunch break, Henry leaned over, excitement written all over his face. Lily, isn't there a short holiday at the beginning of next month? A few of us teachers are organizing a trip to North City. We've already planned everything. Want to come along? The more people, the merrier. In the past, I rarely joined group outings like that. Because I was always afraid of missing a sudden message from Gerald. Or a last-minute invitation. My schedule had unconsciously been arranged to leave space for him. Sure, I said. Count me in. The first stop of the trip was Multigenerational Mountain in the outskirts of North City. On a downhill path, I wasn't paying attention and stepped on a loose stone. Careful. Henry grabbed me immediately. Did you twist your ankle? Before I could answer, he crouched down and expertly rolled up my pant leg to check. Swelling was already visible. What do we do now? We're still far from the base, one of the teachers said worriedly. Henry had already turned around and squatted firmly in front of me. Get on. I was still hesitating when our colleagues gathered around, laughing. Just let Henry carry you, don't push yourself at a time like this. The toughest guy in the PE department giving you a ride, no one else gets this treatment. Amid their laughter, I blushed and climbed onto his back. Hold tight. The path is slippery. On the way down, the teasing never stopped. Henry, your service is impeccable. The school should give you an award for helping others. I think it should be the Taken at Heart award. I'm telling you, these two, brains and brawn, make a great match. Henry's ears reddened slightly as he hitched me higher on his back. Multigenerational Mountain wasn't easy to traverse. Yet all the way down, he carried me without complaint, attentive in every way. The mountain wind brushed through the loose strands of hair on his forehead. And stirred the once still waters of my heart. The day we visited the Forbidden City, North City welcomed its first snowfall. Fine flakes drifted down, landing softly against the Vermilion Palace walls. Just then, Gerald sent a video call request. When the screen lit up, there was a hint of weariness on his face. Lily, how come you haven't contacted me lately? You've been replying so slowly. Before he could finish, his gaze fell on the red palace walls behind me. And the snow filling the sky. You're at the Forbidden City. His voice darkened instantly. North City, it's snowing. His expression turned complicated. Clearly, he remembered what he'd once written on that postcard. Year after year, the snow in North City fell and melted again. Yet he always seemed to be racing, always on the road. That promise, like a snowflake landing in one's palm, had never been held tight. Lily. Henry's voice sounded at just that moment. He stepped forward slightly, his figure inevitably entering the camera frame. It looks like the snow's getting heavier. Should we go stand under the corridor over there for shelter? On the other end of the screen, Gerald's face turned ashen. I'm hanging up. Before he could respond, I hurriedly ended the call. Under the covered walkway, Henry stopped me. I turned back and met his earnest gaze. Lily, when I said I do at that wedding, I meant it. I felt dazed. Snowflakes clung to his eyelashes, lending him a cool, quiet grace. Actually, I noticed you from the very first day you started teaching at the school. That blind date wasn't a coincidence. I heard at the wedding that your family was arranging one for you, so I asked them to introduce me. And this trip, I heard from the other teachers that you'd never seen snow before. But I was afraid that inviting you alone would put pressure on you, so. I was completely caught off guard by his words. Those encounters that had seemed coincidental had all been guided by his careful, restrained intentions. The snow Gerald never managed to show me, Henry had brought me to with ease. Some things weren't a matter of opportunity. It was simply that someone didn't want to. I know a confession is supposed to have a sincere speech, and flowers. I didn't have time to prepare. There's snow, I said. He stared at me, stunned. I didn't know why I suddenly interrupted him like that. He was already stumbling over his words enough. Then, would you be willing to be with me? Snow settled lightly on his shoulders. Instinctively, I brushed it away. I would. He pulled me into his arms. They say that people who share the first snowfall together will stay together forever. The plane touched down in South City. Gerald's family and my parents were sitting together in the living room. In previous years, it was true that our two families would usually get together before Christmas. This year, because of my own lingering emotions, my mom had originally planned to turn down Gerald's parents' invitation. But once guests were already at the door, it was impossible to send them away. When Gerald saw me standing there in a daze at the entrance, he smiled and took my luggage from my hands. You don't look very happy to see me. Beside him, Gerald's mother couldn't help complaining, Lily, you really need to rein in Shaoqi. That brat ran back halfway through a race, doesn't that make you mad? I didn't know why Gerald had suddenly withdrawn from the competition and rushed back. But somehow, it no longer seemed important to me. Have you been here long? For a while. Auntie said you'd be back today. I wanted to pick you up at the airport, but you didn't answer your phone. I took out my phone and only then noticed an entire screen full of missed calls. Look at these two, don't they make such a perfect pair? Gerald's parents still didn't know about Henry and me, and they kept teasing us. I smiled and clarified calmly, I have a boyfriend. As soon as the words fell, the room went silent. Gerald's expression darkened. Congratulations, he said. When did this happen? Why did you even keep it from me? I thought for a moment and answered honestly, during the trip. I was planning to wait until you finished your season and came back, then tell everyone together, and treat you all to a big meal. My parents were smiling happily at that, but Gerald pulled me outside. That PE teacher, you've only known him for how long, and you already... Gerald, I interrupted him. This has nothing to do with you. How does it have nothing to do with me? Is some guy you met halfway even reliable? When I didn't respond, his tone softened. Lily, don't be stubborn. I have a long vacation this time. Wherever you want to go, I can take you. I shook my head. I'll be pretty busy. Busy? It's getting cold. I want to knit Henry a scarf. It was as if something had struck a raw nerve. Gerald didn't eat a single bite and left my house immediately. I didn't think much of it. After all, him leaving without warning wasn't exactly new. In the past, I'd worn rose-colored glasses and thought everything about him was wonderful. Now that I looked at him clearly, he was just a walking central heating system. Warm to everyone, committed to no one. After that, I didn't see Gerald for quite some time. Until Christmas, when he showed up downstairs again. On Christmas Day, I was just about to head out on a date with Henry. The moment I reached downstairs, I saw Gerald leaning against his flashy sports car. His hair was meticulously styled, clearly dressed with care. In his hand was a luxury shopping bag. The contents inside were obviously expensive. Lily, Merry Christmas. He held the gift out to me, a flicker of anticipation in his eyes. I didn't take it. I only thanked him. His hand slowly lowered, the bag dangling at his side. His gaze fell on the scarf in my hands, the one I had knitted for Henry. And my gift? His voice dropped slightly. In previous years, you always prepared a Christmas gift for me. Only then did I remember how, every year, I'd start racking my brain 1 or 2 months in advance, wondering what I should get Gerald. I forgot to prepare yours this year. How about I make it up to you next time? Gerald seemed to deflate all over again. Lily, please. Don't treat me like this. I had run out of patience and turned to leave. Just then, Henry called. I was about to answer, when Gerald grabbed my wrist. Out of nowhere, he blurted out, Lauren and I broke up. He'd chased Lauren for so long. Yet in the end, they still hadn't made it. Oh. I replied calmly and forcefully shook his hand off. Lily, just today, leave some time for me. Don't go with him. Please. Those eyes that were always so confident and bright now looked damp. I shook my head. Henry is waiting for me. That was when Gerald finally collapsed. Today. Next year. Every Christmas from now on. My time would no longer be reserved for him. Men always show the fiercest passion for what they cannot obtain, and what they have already lost. It was as if Gerald had finally awakened from a long dream. Only to realize that the person who had always stayed by his side was gone. So he began chasing my retreating figure in blind panic. Whenever he had time, he would accidentally show up downstairs at my place, just to exchange a few words. He even started waiting for me outside the school gates, picking me up after work. Henry was driven half crazy by him. Constantly sighing, getting jealous, clinging to me, afraid I might run away. Gerald's parents also came to me several times, hoping to match Gerald and me back together. I was exhausted. I couldn't understand how Gerald, who had been carefree and free-spirited since high school, had suddenly become so restrained. Back then, I'd circled around him every day, and he never saw me. Now, he wanted me to cling to him again. Until that night, just after midnight on New Year's Eve. Henry and I returned home after watching the fireworks. When Gerald saw the dense marks of kisses on my neck, he completely lost control. "What did you do to her?" The moment the words left his mouth, Gerald's clenched fist landed on Henry's face. Henry didn't back down. "What right do you have to say that? Lily doesn't like you anymore." Gerald froze, momentarily dazed. It was as if he were desperately searching for a reason to be standing here. I pulled Henry inside and tended to his wound. "Does it hurt?" Henry shook his head. "It doesn't." Gerald stood at the doorway, at a loss. So I decided to be completely honest with him. "Gerald, go home. Don't make me hate you." His voice trembled in the cold night. "We've known each other for nearly 20 years. We've been through so much, I don't believe you can just let all of that go." I looked at him and replied coldly, "All these years, you knew exactly how I felt." He froze, his eyes flickering. "Do you remember my birthday this year? I waited until midnight and called you. Your phone was off. Later, I found out you'd already come back. You said you'd take me to see the sunrise, to see the snow, but you always forgot." With every sentence, his face grew paler. "You see, it was never about who came sooner or later," I said quietly but firmly. "It's that in the moments I needed him the most, he was always there." It was as if all his strength had been drained. "Just, because of these little things?" "They're not little things," I said softly, yet with certainty. "Love is always hidden in the details. So is disappointment." He lifted his hand, as if to ruffle my hair like he used to. But in the end, he could only let it fall. "Lily, do you know what I can't accept?" His voice was hoarse. "That we could have been so good. That it was me, who ruined everything. But even if we really went back in time, would he have loved me then?" I asked myself silently. He simply couldn't accept that the lighthouse which had always shone for him had one day begun guiding another ship. He couldn't accept that the feelings accumulated over so many years had been intercepted by a Henry who appeared halfway through. But we were always destined to end up here. So nothing I do now will ever matter, right? He looked at me intently, his gaze burning. I smiled, finally at peace. "Yes. It's too late. I don't feel that spark for you anymore. You're just an older brother." I knew Gerald too well. I knew exactly which words would hurt him, and which ones would make him finally let go. That night, I walked Gerald downstairs. He walked slowly. When he reached the third street lamp, he suddenly stopped. The corners of his eyes reddened. It was the first time I had ever seen him cry. I knew what he was waiting for. He was waiting for me to call out his name from behind. Just like I had countless times before. But in the end, I only said softly, "Gerald, you should find a new girlfriend too." He didn't respond. He kept walking forward. And didn't turn back again. The figure I had gazed at throughout my entire youth quietly dissolved into the night. The following year, Gerald's family moved away. I heard they went abroad. On the day he left, there was no goodbye. No message. When I married Henry, I sent wedding invitations to many old classmates, including Gerald. He didn't come. But at the sign-in table, I received a parcel with no sender's name. Inside was the copy of Pride and Prejudice I had once given him. On the title page was his familiar handwriting, "Wishing you a happy marriage, Gerald." Holding the book, standing in a hall filled with flowers and blessings, I suddenly smiled. The boy I had once secretly tucked a bookmark for in junior high finally sent me a silent reply. In the year I got married. Yesterday, at a junior high reunion, someone mentioned Gerald. They said he's now a well-known race car driver overseas, still unmarried. People sighed, their gazes drifting toward me, intentional or not. I was looking down, replying to Henry's message, asking what he wanted for dinner. Hearing the news, I only murmured a quiet as calmly as if it were any other old classmate's update. On the way home, waiting at a red light, I gazed at the neon lights outside the window. Suddenly, I thought of a 16-year-old afternoon. Me sneaking a glance at Gerald through the classroom window. The sunlight had been perfect. His seat was by the window, and the breeze billowed the pale blue curtains. The light turned green. I gently pressed the accelerator. On the passenger seat lay the shirt I'd bought for Henry. In the back seat were the new picture books we'd bought for our child. Light music played through the speakers. The night breeze drifted in, soft and warm. Those unfinished stories of youth, let them remain forever. In that afternoon. Gerald, epilogue. I knew Lily liked me. I had known for a very, very long time. She thought she hid it well. But she was too pure. Every emotion written plainly on her face. She was too serious. Once, I merely chased away a boy who was bothering her. She secretly knitted me a crooked scarf. An entire winter. She was too well behaved. I said I liked her with long hair. So she never cut it short again. I mentioned which breakfast shop tasted good. She took a longer route every morning for half a year just to buy it for me. Someone like her? How could I dare respond? I'd seen my friends date. Break up, make up, cry, laugh. But Lily was different. She was like a blank sheet of paper. If I drew on her too easily, what if the colors faded someday? What if the paper wrinkled? So I always said, "You're like my little sister." Until Henry appeared. I panicked. I deliberately brought Lauren in front of them. I thought Lily would do what she always did. Pout for a while, feel hurt, then continue waiting for me. But her eyes no longer stirred. I saw her cut the long hair she'd kept for me. And smile at him, light, free. I saw that man take her to the Forbidden City to see the snow. That had been my promise to her. In that moment, it felt like something was carved out of my chest. I tried to make things right. I abandoned my race and rushed back to her. I told her I'd broken up with someone else. But missing something means missing it. Even the small magnet I bought her in Monaco never made it into her hands. She refused every gift I offered. On New Year's Eve, I waited the entire night. Until after midnight, they appeared before me, hand in hand. Lily's neck was covered in dense kiss marks. My mind filled with images of her in passion. For the first time in my life, I encountered something I was too afraid to face. My heart died that winter. I told myself it had only been a nightmare. I just didn't know how to wake up from it. The first year after going abroad, every time I thought about losing Lily, my heart hurt as if it were about to split open. Only after countless therapy sessions did I slowly recover. On the day she got married, I didn't go. I had someone return the book to her. On the title page, I wrote "Happy Marriage." Signed. Only my name. Not brother. I am a coward. A coward who refused every beginning. Because he feared the ending. I lost my sunshine. It turns out, cowards don't deserve to be loved.